Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split. Still here, still your host, Alex Wilson, goodbye, Master on the air, and I'm joined by the illustrious good brother duo that is Initialize and Nightmare. Gentlemen, we will be bringing coverage now of Crest Gaming Act facing off against Rascal Jester, and when these teams faced off last time, well, it wasn't pretty for one of these teams.
No, it wasn't.
No.
And it was a game where somehow Pink got his Katarina, his famed one-trick champion.
Yep.
It didn't matter. Turns out if you're trying to be a scrappy fighting team, there is only one King of the Pit, and this time it's not set, actually. It is our team in the LJL CGA. They are really good at just fighting whenever the gauntlet is thrown.
Yes, all they do is fight. If they can't fight, they look lost. But when they do fight, they look really, really damn good. And they've got a few players that do that so well in their mid laner and AD carry as well.
Yes, and I mean, CGA are currently coming off of a brilliant and superb Super Week beginning performance. Currently 2-0 in Super Week B, beating V3 Esports and the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, who themselves are causing some upsets in the standings as well. CGA now coming in. They've got Rascal Jester to face off against first, and they've got Axis to face later. Coming into this first game for them today, they've got to be feeling great that they've kind of had the more difficult day already taken care of, and business as usual. Let's get to 10 wins, lads.
Feels like that's the argument. Of course, V3 put on some good games today, but CGS still hunting for that first place option if they can get up there, or at least get into the second place where you're at least in the bye there, and then really it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, if you get to second place, it's as good as first, right? You're playing off against the other team anyway, and you still get to go to finals if you win.
But is it as good? Because you really want... Well, I mean, they already did take that win off of them. So they do have that...
There's room for it.
There's room for it.
It just means side selection won't be red side for 5 games straight for CGA, so they can't always give Ardia counter picks against Ace.
The last series between these two teams went to 5 games, and it was damn close. That's all I'm saying. Every little helps in this, and they are looking absolutely ascendant now, both teams. I think it could go down right down to the wire if it does come to a Juggernaut match, and we might even get to see 2 best of 5 series.
So, that would be too much of a tree. And it's better than last time because we don't get to lose one of them when one of them wins.
Exactly.
We get to have another chance. We get to see the other team hungry for that run back. They got to go to losers finals. What is this? No.
Seen how that works in the LJL. People get angry when they end up in the losers finals.
Well, unless you're DFM, apparently angry versus losing a game to V3, and then you play the Hawks, and then Counterfeit gives us the narrative that they're angry, and then it doesn't work out, and the Hawks get the win. Anyway,
I wish this was something stronger than coffee.
Gentlemen, let's just rip off the band-aid first and foremost, because it'll be easier to do our quick analysis here while I am still on the desk with you. Who's winning this game?
It's obviously going to be CGA for me. They have so much individual star power, they're going to crush them.
Brilliant.
To pull a counterfeit.
Go on.
Every time you believe in CGA, it goes wrong. This is I
have twice so far in summer though.
True.
We've only believed in them twice then.
But
Nightmare, you're lacking.
And this is the trouble, right, with CGA. Is yes, to not be facetious, I definitely think CGA have this. In my predictions, I put Rascal Jesters, but that's because in my heart, I want them. That's on personal predictions. But I do believe CGA get this one. The difference in mid lane at the minute is pretty absurd. But this is CGA, and they do like to flip coins they shouldn't. And I somehow wouldn't be surprised if they did lose this game.
Well, if Ninja and Vivid were here, I might be on your side, Initialize, and... Well, sadly, they're not with us at the moment due to current world events, so... With that said, I will agree with you all. Yeah, it just has to be CGA. They've got All-Star currently mid laner. Top lane is maybe the strongest sometimes. You could argue Nap is because his weak side play is just leaps and bounds above everybody else, and then he knows team fights and everything. And CGA are the other team, like V3, their compatriots currently in that top spot, who they're definitely wanting to take it from. they play around each other beautifully, arguably, and sometimes better than V3.
Given by the game that we saw, potentially you could say that.
There is that at least hot take. Gentlemen, what? Let's spice this matchup up, because we're kind of expecting this to be a quick stomp. It's already in the pick and ban phase. You continue that point
That's
while...
the spice.
That's the spice. You keep going. I'll figure it out. Enjoy. Take it over. Bye-bye.
What are you going to do with that spice time, Arrow? Cheers again, Master One, by the way.
What am I going to do with that spice? What I'm going to do is I'm going to cast a game of League of
That's
Legends.
what we're talking about. All right, that was probably the least favourable handoff. Thank you again, Master One. Let's make that properly grateful to our host and producer for this current set of games. Crest Gaming Act taking to the Rift here on the blue side with Nap, Unica, Arya, Gango, and Grendel making up their roster.
Rascal Jester's once again going to be on the red side, though. It's Kogog, Hachimecha, Pink, Art, and Nagi.
And there is a blessed LeBlanc Plan 3. It was let through the other day, and Arya did vile things to Ace on it.
And they didn't read the genesis of the book of CGA, and it said, "Thou shalt ban the LeBlanc." They did not. They were punished accordingly due to the laws of the land. However, now they have done their due diligences, but CGA have locked in that first pick Volibear.
Great flex between top and jungle. I think that fits both kind of Unica and Nap's playstyles. Unica likes to turn up and help whatever his lanes are doing and sort of
Also,
seed a lot of his jungle farming and pressure just to be around for the right fights. And it worked against V3. Even if he was behind Boogie, his lanes weren't in the end of it.
the thing
and that was a big deal.
the thing about Volibear, in the same way that which I liked Unica on set, is it just allows you to stick around in the fights and be hard to remove. You get to do your thing regardless of whether you're ahead or behind. A champion really does want to be ahead, though, is that Renekton. Cog, I think, would be the way that Rascal Jester could win this game. If Renekton does run over one lane in this early game going into mid game, potentially that's a way for Rascal Jester to start getting some control of the map.
Chester's near to think about what they want to go for. Go towards the Nautilus and not the Ashe. Interestingly, again, we didn't see it in the last game either, which is unusual because we was 100% present on the Saturday.
Ashe kind of sucks into Volibear in a lot of ways because he can just run, he can just ult through your ult. However, now you've given it up and now you have to play against the Ashe.
It's buffed.
So it is buffed, but
no, okay.
Ashe Bard locked in. I think, I was about to say, well, you know, Nautilus is actually pretty good against Ashe. But Ashe Bard is so strong at punishing flubbed engages, and if you get stuck around in melee range as this Nautilus, if you've missed a hook and it goes onto a minion, or the wall and you get dragged in, you don't have your Aftershock, you just get banned in place and you die.
Yeah, you get it's not so much dragged in as knocked down and dragged out, is how it feels like for Nautilus if he manages to mess that one up. Don't recommend it. Hachimecha, though, I said enough of these low pressure early junglers. I am going hardcore into my tower diving potential. It will be the Elise locked in, and Elise Renekton is a tale as old as top lane time. It's kind of fallen off a little bit, but the combo stands true, but you need to get it rolling early.
You do, and with Rascal Jester being on red side, they will have a choice of counter pick for either AD carry or more likely that mid lane. What that means is that Arya will have to pick up something which is potentially good for his composition rather than just for lane, although Pink's champion pool has left a lot to be desired in this split of the LJL. His rookie split, it's been a tough one, and he's going to be playing against our best mid laner in the region, so we say. In this very game, they're banning away the Zoe. I'd imagine they're going to ban away... what will they ban away next, actually? That's a very good question. There's just too many things to consider. Maybe
Possibly
Syndra?
Syndra wouldn't be a bad call. I could see Silas being a shout potentially as well. Arya does love that champion. It will be the Azir though, which is kind of
so the reason for that
backline massive DPS.
Imagine playing Renekton into Ashe, Bard, Volibear, Azir in the late game. If you don't immediately get on top of the carries, and even if you do, you probably get locked up. You probably die.
Yeah. Also worth pointing out, Katarina's unbanned right now. It happened last time versus CJ, and Arya was willing to take that match, but took the Kalista mid, if you remember, into that particular pick. Of course, the Katarina managed to get some stuff done early, but couldn't quite find the resets later into the game. Versus Tempered Fate, Thundering Smash, and an Enchanted Crystalline Arrow, though, can get a bit interesting. Caitlyn locked in. Largely, Ashe is something of a counter to Caitlyn if you can get the volleys landing, but the range, all the attack range on Caitlyn is pretty damn good.
Ashe is kind of a Kate counter because your volley outranges her and you have the slows to run her down. Jhin has been somewhat of the Ashe counter in the current meta in terms of LPL, and we've seen it a little bit. We saw it from Sengoku yesterday. and it is not been picked up. Of course, it is going to be that Caitlyn, slightly more lane dominant, but if you ever manage to gank that 2v2 and that 2v2 falls behind, Caitlyn becomes a non-factor.
Demigod duo.
And it is the Demigod duo. Ornn locked in for Nap. This guy has been good from ahead, from behind, in every given situation on this champion. It's a big team fight pick from CGA.
Arya locks in the Akali and production screams in rage. I can feel it from the reaches of London. He's going to be super upset with that. Cog hovering. He's very upset. On the other side, though, we've got a Kayle hover here. Cog's played it before, but this would likely be a mid lane Kayle if it was to come through. Don't know quite whether they'll lock it in.
Maybe a mid lane Renekton and then the Kayle top.
May well be the mid lane Renekton and Kayle top. That would be
it.
an interesting flex. I know we have seen Renekton into Akali before a few times. I believe it's a pretty good matchup for Renekton if you can get the right stun down, but
I would say it's...
hesitate to say.
I would say that Renekton to Akali is not particularly good matchup for Renekton. I think it's okay. I don't think it's particularly special.
Okay.
I think more importantly, the Kayle into the Ornn gives you a bit of a free scaling lane. However, you are playing a melee mid laner against a Volibear jungle, and the Akali can follow up pretty well. Has a lot of move speed with the Shroud and then getting your passive proc. I'm looking for Unica to really run across the map and start making these lanes feel the hurt. In fact, Arya's gone for the cleanse versus the Elise Renekton, which is a very good idea, yes. Why do I like this Akali? Because I know that production really had some issues historically with the pick. It is always a way... Akali is one of the highest target accessibility champions in the game. Caitlyn wants to keep you at arm's length. You can't do that versus an Akali. If Arya ever finds a flank, Art is going to be really feeling pretty bad. And I think that this pick can potentially remove the one threat going later into the game of the Caitlyn until that Kayle starts scaling up. And also the Akali has a good side lane versus Kayle too.
Okay, yeah, of course, if you can get on top of the Kayle, you can wait out her Divine Judgment, and things feel a little sad for Kayle, ascended or not. CGA, pretty standard front to back with a little bit of spice in that Akali, which we haven't seen so much of in
They have a lot of setup too.
Jesters have pulled a Jesters draft, though. This is so prototypical Jesters, I can't even begin it. Just some random stuff in there. They picked up the Kayle, the Renekton mid, Caitlyn in the bot lane. How do the Jesters want to play this game? I'm assuming it's leave Kayle to survive in the top side and just hard dive bot with them.
It's lane dominance from mid and bot lane, presumably. We'll see if that actually works out. And then the Elise, as you're saying, snowballing over the early game. Is one of the things we were talking about when Sengoku made their run last split, was that sometimes if you just pick up the Elise and you just run over the map, it doesn't matter how good the enemy team is, you do reach that insurmountable lead. And then once you get ahead with these very high burst champions, if they are ahead in the Renekton, if he goes Blade, and the Elise too, there aren't many things you can do against that, because you end up giving up a lot of turrets. And with the Caitlyn with that too, it does mean that you can't really defend a lot of your towers.
That's really true. Looking here at some of the stats, those are not the stats you'd expect of a second place team there from CGA. 5th, 6th, and 8th respectively. Goal difference at 15, XP at 15, and kills and assist at 15. But for the Jesters, they are dead last in goal difference and XP difference at 15. And that is basically out of 8 teams in the league. The difference between 6 and 8 is monumental. That is an atrocious goal difference in XP difference at 15 for the Jesters.
And the difference in narratives between Rascal Jester and CJ, even with these stats, is that CJ fight really well in the mid and late game. If they get to a point where they can team fight and they are not completely out of the game, they will find a way to win that game. They have done that every time but twice this split, and they are looking very, very good with that given style. You can call them whatever you want, you can attribute whatever adjectives you want to their playstyle, but it has been effective in this region. I think it would be effective on a greater stage as well. We've seen them take apart very composed teams, even when they're very solid about their game plan, and Rascal Jester will look to really throw a spanner in the works if they were to take this win.
And the game that comes to mind is Sengoku CGA, where CGA team up Nap on the Ornn, Gango on the Aphelios in those late game team fights where you had Appman on this Camille that was super far ahead, and they just turn around the team fights late and look really good doing so, even if the early game had been a little bit less than stellar. They're going to be looking to kind of not get to that point versus the Jesters, I imagine.
No, I think they want to get this individual lead for the Akali. I think that's the really big one, because if Akali is ahead, Kayle can't walk up sideways very well. Renekton has to be under pressure as well, and it means that Elise has to be on call for that lane regardless of what's happening on the rest of the map. You're looking to from CGA's side, you're trying to get this pressure from the Akali to alleviate it off of the Ashe Bard, and then as soon as the Ashe Bard have that pressure alleviated on them, they have huge roaming potential, huge engage potential, and if you manage to get that uneven numbers fight, because well, the Magical Journey is a semi-global. If you get the right wall, you do rotate so much faster than any other lane in the game, and that means that you can start getting to very opportunistic positions to fire off Ashe arrows, fire off the Bard ultimates too, and set up kills for this very strong Akali if it does get ahead. So I'm looking for CGA to use those kind of tools, and maybe not be so mindless about the brawling.
Yeah, and this, I believe, is the official streams game of the week, interestingly, as well.
I'm not
I think probably because of historical presence in this one and how it has been something of a bogey matchup for CGA, of course, in very recent history, if nothing else. Of course,
last game of the regular split for CGA, or thereabouts. We remember that Blitzcrank ult to this day.
The 11-0 Silas, the 25-stack Magi's meant nothing in the face of a great hook and one silencing boy. CGA going for a level 1 invade here as we're on to the Rift. Nagi backing away, possibly wisely here. Bard level 1 is something pretty special in League of Legends.
Okay, so important things. Bard on blue side here. If this is going to be a Caitlyn Nautilus pushing up, you have to be very, very careful if you're Rascal Jester that a Magical Journey doesn't come through the larger wall on your side of the lane and brings in Unica for that huge gank. If you manage to get flanked as Caitlyn, everything falls apart. The Nautilus can peel for you a bit, but I'm expecting CGA to try and put some pressure onto this bot lane early with, like I was saying, that Magical Journey and potentially an early volleybag gank, and then really upset the rhythm of the Caitlyn. That's the big thing about it. I think to start with the level 1 invade, it could all start here.
Sweeper, and that volatile spiderling tracks the enemies for Jesters, and they're going to continue onto this blue buff. No vision down, I should say, for CGA right now, looking for the steal, but it is secured with a well-timed smite for Hachimecha, but that means has had to use a smite early on the blue buff, going to rush straight over to the red side quadrant.
They will use this. Might actually be a blue into red into early top gank from Hachimecha. That could be something that we see, or just running around immediately over to the blue buff and trying to get a 3 buff.
That's definitely possible here. Running straight over, Volibear still on his red and will have started that late, of course. Twitter vote very much in favour of CGA, but I appreciate Hachimecha with using the knowledge he has to come over and try and punish Unica early.
So Unica's going to red, going towards blue. What this does mean is that Unica will be on the top side of the map for Nap pushing in early. You can see that Cog is behind that level right now and has taken a pretty large trade early. Unica will not find this buff also very closely, but now Hachimecha will not have that gank path in top lane.
Nap at level 2, going to try and get onto Hachimecha, who's going to try and escape, does get knocked up, but will be able to walk out, one assumes. Kale coming over as well, but not the most pressure early, of course. That is a Cosmic binding onto Art, though, who has to burn heal. Exhaust now down onto Art as well, but trading back is the Caitlyn. Gango stepping forward, trying to find more volleys, body blocked by Nagi to prevent Art taking too much there. Going to stick around in lane. That's another Cosmic binding. Nagi walking behind Art there was a bit risky.
That gave me some flashbacks to the mid-season cup of T1, just giving that free bar to stun over to top esports, I believe it was, in that one game. Try not to walk close to each other. It's like the whole thing with the Fiddle Fear bounce as well, back with old Fiddle. And Grendel really just wrangling control away from the Ashe in the early game. And this is the problem with Elise just focusing on top lane, this duo lane is now being put behind.
And he's a great barb. We know there's Hachimecha getting attacked in that jungle, but wait, the Renekton's turn up as well, fighting the bot side now, starting up Grendel. Gango stepping forward for the autos. First blood goes the way of Gango and Grendel, abusing Ashe and Bard early in this lane. Gango stepping forward, the flash, the auto, the turnaround from Art.
I think one more auto from Gango and a flash order from Grendel would have turned that around for a 1-for-1, but Art manages to get something out of nothing. He'll have to recall, but at least it's a recall from the Ashe. And the important thing is, in this particular matchup of AD carries, Ashe can back for a Vamp Scepter, whereas Caitlyn's really looking for the BF sword, so the lane advantage is still on the side of CGA.
Also worth pointing out that Unica had to burn his flash as a result of an ill-advised invade onto Hachimecha's red buff. Is still behind this Elise early on, but there have been no kills, which is probably good news for this Volibear early. Nagi gets into the bush without being spotted.
He does. He's only level 2, all things said and done, but given how the lane worked out on bot side, Nautilus could potentially have found something to do in that mid lane. We can see this replay now. Let's see what happened here. Volleys keep landing. That's Nautilus Hook landing onto Grendel, but the Guardian comes through. It's not actually the best thing ever. Trap lands onto Grendel because he Art manages to reach that level 3 mark, and Gango cancels an auto there. Gets there and takes a turret shot.
Flash
the
the
flash
volley.
E, no, not flash the volley. It's a flash E for the headshot. Gets the fleet footwork as well for that extra heal, and gets out with his life.
I thought he'd managed to flash the volley to get over the damage.
It went through. It went into the minions anyway.
Okay, fair enough. In that case, just for the E. I thought he was super style. It's still pretty damn stylish.
Oh, it's still very
Hachimecha's
stylish.
here at the hook onto Gango, who's got no flash. That's the cocoon as well. And Hachimecha claims a kill. No flash burn for the Elise, but flash down for the Nautilus. And that lane pressure you called for the Ash is now starting to get punished. And this is Gango, man. He loves to play aggro. He loves to play up in lane. This time he's been punished.
He has been punished. He stands out away from his minions. The wave wasn't there. Try not to get zoned off any of that XP. And Nagi takes the killing hook into Gango. Gets themselves a Dragon 2.
It does, and... do my eyes deceive me? Is this the Jesters with an early lead? What is going on?
It's even so far. Could we call it a lead? It's 200 gold. But with the Mountain Dragon taken away, particularly taken away from the Ornn and the Volibear, which will very much have liked that, it is a good early start for Rascal Jesters.
Grendel needed to be a little
He still needs to be careful. He saw them over the wall there, but with Volibear on the bottom side, Hawk Shot being put out. Imagine if they'd used that earlier.
Oh, got the hook. There's going to be the magical journey, but actually in behind now. Grendel's just dead. He walked up for that. But there is the Volibear looking to turn this around. Hachimecha goes up with the repel. Arya is roaming down. Hachimecha needs to think about flashing before Arya can get in. That's
Level
the flash.
6.
He's going to try and get 2. He does get it. And that's going to be the double to Arya with a swift roam.
And he goes back to the Shuriken flip, gets out with style. 2 kills to the Akali. You know what we were talking about? Well, if this Akali gets ahead, no side lanes are safe, and nothing can be played around for Rascal Jesters on the map. 2 kills on the Akali, that's how it starts off.
And my eyes don't deceive me. It's, in fact, it's CGA with the lead. So, in fact, no, flip that around. They were deceived. There we go.
Scratch that,
Found
reverse it.
There we go.
Pink now has to sit here thinking, guys, why are you feeding my lane?
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Question mark pings everywhere. And the biggest thing is that Arya did that with a very good time investment too. He didn't particularly lose anything in his lane. Nap, on the other hand, had to recall with not having teleport. Bard is now teleporting into top lane, though. Not journeying in.
Journeying. Does miss the Cosmic Binding. Nice sidestep by Cogcog. Has got the Divine Judgment. May need to use it as yet. There is the slow from the pillar, but the heal will speed up Cogcog, and he gets to walk out with no summoners burned.
He does. He's going to reset anyway, but at least Cogcog has been left somewhat alone on the island, which is something that Rascal Jesters wanted to do. Now the question is, over the next couple of minutes, how is that going to work out? There's going to be a Herald spawning. How's Cogcog going to fight around that? / how is he going to allocate his lane? Whereas on the bot side of the map, we do have that 10 CS lead for Art onto the Caitlyn. Picked up that pickaxe, which is, it's okay. It's not quite the gold standard of that BF sword, but they are pushing into that bot lane. There's nothing really which CG are doing to alleviate that pressure, because Hachimecha is going straight into this bot side jungle.
He is in this invade with the pink ward behind the red buff. It's been a ward point for many years now. It does not tend to be walked through as a bush, and that pink ward can stick around for a very long time and buy a lot of very useful information in the jungle. Also offers a lot of pressure. That pink ward will show, but that's another good hook now onto Grendel. The cocoon as well landing. Dive continues. The heal is burned. Nagi magical journey. He still goes down. Nagi trying to turn it out. He does die. Now Gango getting more damage. The level 6 misses from... well, actually didn't miss. The Enchanted Crystalline Harrow hits, but the Cocoon rather missed. I got confused with some ability names there, but it matters not. The 1-for-1 in the bot. Grendel falls, but Gango turns it around at the end.
Turns it around, and the kill goes over to Hachimecha. Arya is now here, sees the ward. Hachimecha does want to back out. Art has his ultimate, can finish off a play with that ace in the hole, so they want to make sure that Art cannot back off. They're looking for the kill here, looking for a Cocoon. Gango, you best not walk up here, buddy.
He's thinking about it. Oh, this guy is...
Oh, I thought that Arya was on the same side of the map. I thought that was going to be huge. It's not. I got excited. I'm sorry.
This is a man who really likes Arya playing.
I cast hurt himself in his confusion because I saw Arya clearing out the ward and I was like, oh, if he's still on bot side, then that's a double kill because the ultimate's available there. It's not. It's okay. We're good. Everything's fine. Everything's okay here. How are you?
I'm doing fine. The bot lane is not. The bot lane's been a bloodbath. It is 4 kills apiece just around that bot side. Like, that is where pretty much all of the deaths have been. It's been junglers and bot laners fighting around controlling the bot side.
As you can see, Gango and Arya, Art, very even in gold. After this next back, we will have relative parity within stats. Probably going to have a Bilgewater Cutlass out for the Ashe. And at that point, we're going to see much more even trades and a lot of burst combos coming out of Art and Nagi because of that full AD of the huge AD coming out of BF Sword and Pickaxe for that Caitlyn.
Yes, it will be. Pink kind of been struggling a little in this lane, down 10-ish CS, but it's kind of the way Arya is sometimes.
Yes, Arya is as Arya does. He wins lanes.
He does indeed.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. It is always dangerous to leave. It's dangerous to leave Kayle alone on an island. It's also dangerous to leave Arya alone on an island. If he does get those individual advantages, he can just end up blowing up the game. A lot of the times when CJ have lost, particularly that Burning Core game I want to remember back to, it was when Arya was in a bit of a poor draft and he couldn't really exploit his lead. If he is in a point where he can exploit his lead, though, you get games like V3 versus CJ, where he can just run over the team fights with the chosen picks.
Absolutely, and Caitlyn now actually up to a fairly good CS lead. Off the sort of awkward, the sort of fight under tower, making Gango miss some CS. You can see Volibear roaming down now as the Infernal Drake will be spawning second and coming up. They have vision control in the river, and Hachimecha is now on a pink ward. Know where he is, might look for a gank before the Elise can get in and contest.
Asholt's available, Bardol importantly is now as well, just as we say that, and Hachimetra has found his way over to the bottom side. Looks like CJ are holding on to their ammunition and making sure that they do have something to fight with when it comes to this dragon. Unica going to spot out the ward in bottom side of the river brush on mid lane, and we'll be moving down river to see if you can find anything onto this Rascal Jester bot lane. Hachimetra in the brush though, this is what I'm looking to see. Can there be a good cocoon
here, the
somewhere?
Tempered Fate does get Nagi. That's good news, but the cocoon does land onto Arya. That's decent damage down onto the Akali, but now Jester's in retreat. Nagi goes golden. They're going to try and turn it around. That's the perfect execution. That means nothing. Shut down onto Arya, who went too deep.
Didn't respect the Caitlyn ult, didn't respect Pink's roam, and importantly, no one respected Hachimecha. The cleanse was used to get away from the cocoon, but Arya doesn't get anything for that play. Goes too deep, as you were saying. The ignite and the stun coming through from Pink by that kill. Herald summon bots, there will be plates. Potentially they can look for a fight now and split the attention.
Art's got a great position over the wall where he can start free firing, and Volibear just disappears. That is the net over the wall. Gango trying to turn it around. Does miss the arrow. Now Hachimecha trying to find something, but Jesters get everything. They get 2 kills and the dragon. The plates in bot lane are great, but I don't know if anybody but Unica would have been there to claim the plate gold.
Potentially not. At least the Gunblade is now completed on Arya, all things said and done, point of power, but not having Arya there for the continued fight was very important. Our Gango very nearly missing out on the volley to try and kill off Nagi. At the end of that, we'll look back into the replay though and see how this all started off. It starts with Hachimetra in a brush, the Grendel's ultimate trying to catch out Nagi as he's trying to maybe walk back to lane. Gets a lot of damage down, but he does have the stopwatch after going golden there, and Hachimecha just really playing the bait so well. Flash in from Pink, Arya just overstepping his bounds.
Yeah, and this is over 1,000 gold lead now for the Jesters. This is 2 dragons for the Jesters. That's good news for a Jesters squad that has been struggling in the early game. And you can see Art over the wall here gets so much work done. Gango does his very best to try and turn it around. Trap at the end as well. Good news for Art as he kind of like used the animation to get that down and armed.
I'm really appreciating Art's Caitlyn too. He's been managing to weave his way in and out of these autos and abilities in the fight, using the net to get over the wall there, continues his auto attacks in that team fight, and gets himself a hefty amount of damage off in this team fight. So yeah, he's got himself up to the Infinity Edge now. That's the core item for Caitlyn because her headshots are guaranteed crits. It means that she gets a lot of damage throughout the game. However, with a lot of turret plates down in the bot lane, we'll be playing tower defense for a little bit.
Tower defense games for a while. Plates in the top side have been going largely in the favour of the Kayla's 1-2 up there is the current score. And you can sort of see Kayla has now reached that level 10 mark, been very uncontested. Kayla on an island is still a bit of a threat. Akali though, as you said, Gunblade, still terrifying. Gonna try and potentially Tempered Fate this turret, I wonder, Grendel, to prevent too much turret plates.
Also worth noting, because that second dragon went down towards Rascal Jester. It's an Ocean Rift, and with the 2 dragon lead, Rascal Jester do have themselves the option to take that huge objective.
Hachimecha's still in this bush. They haven't spotted him. Arya running down Unica's here.
There is no cleanse for Gango, of course. There is ultimates available for both bot laners Rascal Jester. Look for the Assault, see what's going to happen there. Grendel might get caught, but Unica is also here. Arya's roaming down. This could be a big fight.
They're looking for it, but Jester's pulling back. Pink was later on the roam, would have been there. Probably too late, frankly, by the time Arya gets to put out all of his damage.
And no flash this time either. So Arya's been doing a good job of making the first roam. It's just that CJ have not been able to initiate the fights cleanly enough or quickly enough to wrap up the fight before Pink could get involved in that last fight.
People still on vision, people still looking for
Gango,
fights.
you have a hawk shot, my dude. Maybe you should use that and try and track out Hachimecha.
Oh, there's the cocoon, and maybe you should track it out. That's some words. But once again, Pink's going to roam down, come in behind, but this has just been bot lane focused from like everybody.
What it does mean is that Caitlyn's just not wailing on the duo lane. That's still okay. Pink not spitting out, it's actually not seeing that Pink ward there on the bot side jungle.
It's been there for ages. Hatcher walked over it a couple times as well. That's level 11 for Cog. The ascension continues, and what is a demigod to a divinity in the making? This Kayle is becoming a little scary up there.
But the thing is, if Nap goes third item Warmogs, Cog can't dive and Ornn and kill him. And at that point,
seen that before.
I mean, I know that LS is a big fan of it. I'd be a big fan of it in this game because as long as this is a 4v4, CGA have a good chance to win and they can maybe teleport in with a really large Call in the Forge God, which, I mean, obviously you can only protect one person with that Kayle ultimate. So if Nap goes for something like Warmogs third, can just heal up every time there's a gap between waves, means that Kayle never gets pressure in side lanes. And that's potentially the way that CGA want to play this later part of the game. See if they do go towards that, or whether it will be slightly more team fighting efficiency for Nap in terms of just the more raw defensive stats rather than the Warmog's passive.
Right, so Hatchemetcha and the rest of the Jesters decide they do not want to contest for the second Herald, will instead look to index around more bot lane pressure. You can see the Elise replacing her pink ward in the bot side. Cog is going to claim the red buff because Hatchemetcha's not there, and Kayle auto-attacks a fair amount. Hatchemetcha just playing Battle Ward here, looking to catch people out in the jungle.
Leave the Kayle on the island, go bot, just focus around your strong tier lane, and it's been working so far, although it is relatively even. We said the CGA's earlier game stats, they're not great. We're going to have to see them team fight themselves after a bit of a hole in this game too, though, and they'll have to do it through their assassin in the mid lane, and of course the setup from the bot lane too.
And you can see the jungle proximity for both junglers here. Absolutely no focus around the top side for Hatchemetcha. He spent most of his time around that bot lane with a little bit of a look in mid. There is the Herald used in top, but this is 2 Heralds for CGA that didn't get them first turret. Jester's still got that.
They still got that, but at least they now have a long lane in their favor. But then this also gives the ability... Actually, it doesn't actually. Kayle is a champion which can't freeze particularly well. Because if she keeps auto-attacking for last hit, she stacks up a passive, gets herself that AoE auto, and it makes it very hard to try and freeze effectively, which would be very good in this game, because you don't really want to push in towards Cog, particularly if he can defend himself on turret.
Give me lane pressure or give me death, says Kayle, and sometimes it's very much that decision.
However, right now, it is Dragon Spawn time.
Yeah, it is.
Cog's walking the way down. Looking for a big fight. They need to contest, but they don't really have the vision control to see what Hatchemetcha is doing. They don't have a ward in Pixel Brush, I don't think. They have some stuff around some of the more peripheral bushes. It's going to be quite difficult to try and dodge out in that cocoon.
Gango's got priority in the bot lane, but Jesters will trade it for priority in mid. They're going to try and take that. And CGA will start up this Ocean Drake with Jesters distracted with the mid lane. They're thinking about giving this up.
They do, but Gango's also pushed into bot lane, so actually, potentially they can take down the bot lane outer turret in trade for the mid lane outer. Hatchemetcha has the smite advantage here, worth noting. They've got a good flank.
That is the cocoon to avoid. That does not manage to steal. That is a massive arrow, though, and they will turn it around. That is now a 1 for 1 thus far. Arya into the backline, takes a fair amount of damage. Perfect execution, gets nothing. That's a Divine Judgment coming down to save Pink for now. The enchanted crystalline arrow and the dredged line misses. Stormbringer comes in, but Cog! What was that damage? The volley bear disappears, flashing in, but the exhaust will save lives for now. Stun from Nautilus. Nap is now here, trying to find something. The dredge line misses, but it had to be flashed out. And it was, in the end, a 1 for 1 after Cog slays the bear with a pair of very shiny swords.
It does, very, very close to killing out Pink under the turret. What this will mean is that it is a tower trade at the end of the day too, and it will be the mid lane inner turret being forced upon by Rascal Jester because
oh my days, Arya was very lucky to survive that.
Yes, he was. Jeez, very close.
And it will buy 2 turrets as well, and you can see the Jester saying, well, we don't have to get to Ocean Soul Point, we still think we scale, and we'll take this gold, which is now at about 3,000, which is pretty damn good going. Let's see this fight one more time.
What happens here? Force out the repel early with the Bard ult means that Hatchemetcha does not have a way as easily out of it. It's a good smite secure from Unica, even with the level disadvantage. What happens here? Nap's trying to get in, gets some damage onto Pink. That's a really big 3-man empowered Q from the Renekton, and with the Hex Drinker already available, has the magic resist to deny some of this damage. Unica doesn't disable the tab, doesn't get far enough. It doesn't want to dive that deeply, wants to get out quickly, but with the Ignite turnaround, very nearly killing Arya as well, but a good exhaust from Grendel stops Cog from picking up a second of the fight. That would have been a wonderful turnaround for them. Potentially, they could have pushed even further if they'd taken out Arya.
But there were so many summoners. There's only a flash on Unica now. That is it in the game. So many things burned. It was looking good for CGA until that sort of flash in from Cog forced 3 flashes. Arya, Grendel, and Gango all had to find their way out of that trough they found themselves in.
They have, and you're right, it is up at that 3k gold lead right now. One of the issues will be, though, if this Renekton goes into the back line and is separated from the team, it is just a free kill. Nagi in.
Oh, he's walked straight forward. He's got to try and find his way out, getting knocked up, and will find his way down, but the dredge line's pretty good. Buys time. Now here's the turnaround. Nap being cocooned. CGA on the retreat. It's 5v4 right now, and Nagi has no health bar to speak of.
Cosmic Binding didn't land the stun. It just goes straight through him for the damage, doesn't land the stun, and therefore the CC chain doesn't connect. The Stone Plate saving Nagi's life, but it will also blow, importantly, the Call of the Forge God. But there's nothing really to fight around right now, because the 20-minute Baron probably isn't on the cards from Rascal Jester.
I doubt it. And then again, they have got a KO, they've got a Divine Judgment. Maybe they have enough artificial tankiness to think about it. It would be bold, and I don't think it would be worth it right now. The win percentage right here is 63% in favor of the Jesters.
But I remember CJ versus DFM when it was flip-flopping like a fish.
Oh, I do too.
It's not always the most trustworthy robot, this AI we have.
Blitzcrank hooks, man. That's going to be in favor of Jesters. We know how they play with that particular champion.
That's it. Yeah, every time CJ Rascal Jester play, that's how it ends up. And potentially this is why it's match of the week.
That's exactly it. And maybe we shouldn't have doubted them. Maybe the official stream knew what they were talking about. That is a good tempered fate, but he does miss. Cog sidesteps it. Now going to try and outplay. He's in a 3 versus 1 though. Sure to fall. Pink's going to turn up, but it's going to be too late. The perfect execution comes out from Arya. Cocoon is missed, and that is a... Yeah, don't take it, but wait, the Enchanted Crystalline Arrow. I'm going to have to take a breath and start again. Pink taking low. The Cold Meat buys some time, buys some health, but it is not enough for now.
No,
wait, he's walking for now.
He
has no turret, and Arya Shuriken flips. He'll have a 5-point strike to not claim the life quite yet. Pink trying to buy time, but it's a shutdown onto the Renekton. But some fancy feet from Pink bought the Crocodile more time than I think either of us expected.
Cool guys don't look at explosions, sometimes leads some inopportunistic trades, but yeah, actually a very good collapse onto Cog. The Bard ult misses, but it forces Cog to step back into Arya's waiting arms, goes down with nothing really to say about it. The rest of the team collapses, and the Ash Arrow follows up. Wonderful turnaround from CGA now. Their team fighting their way back to at least 1,000 of that 3,000 previous deficit.
I feel like I've seen that before from CGA, and they've got 4 kills onto Arya. It is his Akali. It's looking pretty damn good. Last team fight was not as fantastic as we might have liked from him, but that one looked pretty clean.
It did. But eventually it's going to get to the point where Caitlyn can just one-shot your unfortunate Akali. You've gone for 0 HP in your build. You don't have anything like Leandri's or a Oblivion Orb in your kit. You also don't have Tabby. You've gone for or anything like that. So you're looking for just a straight one-shot trade between the AD carry and the mid laner. So Arya will be looking to use out his smoke screen, but Hachimecha being spotted out here. He can blast. Get the repel out of the blast gun. Cool. Nice.
Does manage to find his way out, but it's 5 seconds before the Ocean Drake, and the jungle has been forced away. Cog now roaming down. Went back to complete the Nash's 2 items complete on this scale is a terrifying thing. But I think the Jesters, you're giving this one up. They haven't really got position, and Hachimecha won't be able to get in time.
They won't. They also have the Bard ult to try and buy some time too. They're stepping up. Cocoon misses. Let's see if there's a re-engage.
They're going to try and find something. Call the Forge God onto Nagi, who's taken so damn low. The heal buys time, but Nagi now has to get out, but the Shuriken flip landed. Enchanted Crystalline Arrow hits Cog in the backline, but it's a long, long way away. The flash in from Nap for the pillar. Gets the knock up anyway. Nap's on is so damn good, and it's 3 for CGA. It's 23 minutes, and there's a Baron alive.
Oh, Grendel, that was so good. He tunnels in for the right angle to get a double stun onto Cog and Pink. Means that the Kale ult can't come through. CC chain for days, and Baron is now an option.
It's being started. It's going to make CGA fairly low, and Art over the wall can certainly put out a lot of damage.
This is actually quite dangerous. There's a slight disadvantage, and Caitlyn does a lot of damage. You can maybe try and get a Caitlyn headshot with a fire cannon onto the Baron, with also that repel coming in.
Gonna try and get it. They've got to wait it out. There is the part over the wall. Hachimecha goes into repel, buying time, but that's all it's going to do. The flash out now. But Arya going in, he's going deep, he's got the shroud, but that is the kill regardless. Now Arya trading forward, trying to get something more. He gets the double. Unica going forwards in the backline. Kale slays Ash, and now CGA are caught in no man's land. That is the stopwatch. The Divine Judgment comes down and buys time for Cog, but he will still fall. Arya falls to the turret shot. He's now dead. Shut down for Pink, and it's a bloody mess, but what did you expect between CGA and Jesters? Grendel now flashing away from the Renekton, and things will fall quite with a 3-for-2 in favor of CGA.
But the peripheral costs to this, you lose a teleport on Cog, you lose a flash on Hatchemetcha. That is a potentially large amount of playmaking / macro tools you can use. It means that Cog can't step in a side lane now because for the next big fight, has to turn up to it. And this is what happened the last time they tried to turn up to a fight. They turn up to the objective late. Hatchemetcha can't land the initial CC for the CC chain onto Grendel, and the Call of the Forge God buys so much time. You notice how Cog doesn't use the ult to save Nagi, knows that it will be important later if you get a chance to catch it. I want to see look what Grendel does here. Tunnels in for just the perfect binding after Nap goes into the knockup. This is the team fighting synergy we love to see from CGA. They managed to land all the CC and take down Cog. Importantly, without using his ultimate. That'll come in. Well, just note that down for later. Put the pin in that. This is a really risky Baron start. They know that it will come down to a smite fight. They are looking for a collapse rather than anything else. Grendel actually teleports in. He journeys into a trap, but the Guardian and the exhaust onto Hatchemetcha means that it's not so easy. Flash ult follow up from Arya means that Hatchemetcha does die after using the repel, but the pressure onto Art is not quite enough to get the kill onto him. Nagi flashes out to try and lock up that Akali, but Cog's finish off Ashe on the backside, as you rightly said during the play, and that means that everyone's split. Cog has his ult still, and it does mean that at least Art can try and return some fire onto these grouped up 3 members of Unica, force out the flash of Unica, but Arya does die in the turret in the meantime.
He does. 8-2 is Arya's Akali. This guy, man, he's so damn good, but on the other side, Art is looking pretty good, and there is a flashless Akali and Ashe versus a fair amount of pick CC. That could be problematic if CGA wants to keep team fighting.
There will be a cleanse up in the next minute or two from Arya. Remember, the cleanse is not the highest cooldown summoner spell, and Arya just picked up a full Zhonya's as well. Gunblade, Void Staff, and the Zhonya's has a lot of AP. Art will get one shot. This is an 8-kill Akali. This is the stuff of nightmares. If you are an ADC, and with the Ocean Dragon coming up in 1 minute 25, we're looking to see if Art can survive, and if he does survive, can he put out damage at that same time? And the same can be said for Cog too.
It's about 1,000 gold lead to the Jesters right now, but that means very little at 26 minutes into their game.
The question is, yeah, what is that gold lead actually buying you? Because you still have a 2.5 items. There's all items coming in as well, right? So we can see potentially that Zhonya's Paradox, I think, will be quite important for Arya, because he is going for these very crazy close-to-the-wire plays, and the extra AP will come in handy alongside that extra armor. Cog's left alone on the bot side, but remember, there is a Baron up and available. There could potentially be a start from CGA.
Kayle roaming fairly swiftly upriver, though. Of course, she does have her speed with her W, which is always nice. So not the slowest roamer, so is kind of pushed that wave and now roamed into mid to not be around too long.
Seen here either.
Yeah, Arya and Pink both kind of thinking the same thing. Arya is flanking, but Pink is flanking Arya.
Who's flanking who? Because Hatchemetcha is also there to flank the flanking flanker.
Sounds like a horrific rugby setup, but we're wrong game, wrong mindset, and
wait, Sam Warburton, why are you here?
Why? How did you turn up? This isn't the Six Nations. What? All right, well, that's life for you, isn't it? Everything turns back to rugby.
Rugby is a pretty big game in Japan nowadays. Last World Cup was there.
Yeah,
maybe we have
the Brave Blossoms are a pretty great rugby team at the minute.
Don't tell South Africa.
Don't tell South Africa.
Don't tell South Africa.
Quick shot somewhere still tilted from your commentary.
Oh, of course he is. Ocean Dragons live as well now would be soul point for either team. CGA fighting their way back from that 2-dragon deficit. And this regen, actually if you manage to get 4 Ocean Dragons on top of the Ocean Soul, that regen is going to be absolutely hilarious. If you end up Zhonyazing as Arya, you're going to spend 2 seconds in regen, but that's going to be like an extra couple of 100 HP.
That's Ocean Soul point, as you kind of alluded to there as well. Jesters haven't really been able to contest the last 2.
No, you can't. If you, as much as CJ can't walk into Hatchemetcha as if they have vision control, we saw that in the many bot lane plays they tried to make. If Arya, the reverse is very true too, because if you walk into a Bardstone and Asher and Akali and Volibear and all the rest of them following up, you do die very quickly. And on the other side of that now, if you don't lock up Gango at the same time, he's going to have himself Infinity Edge soon, and with the might of the Rune King, that ornament for Ashe already in, Gango will be able to carry these fights and is a level ahead of Art, even though it does have some items in the deficit.
Yeah, and the Rascal Jesters walk into a Bard, or rather the Bard walks into you and stuns you forever, which is just awful. It's not much of a laughing matter, it's pretty awful.
Oh. I found it funny.
I'm glad you did.
Nice, cool. Someone did. Someone has to be. Someone has to understand the punchline. Yeah.
I think the punching person will be the Volibear, what he does. Kind of punches with
yes,
bare hands.
great mauling will be had. What a fun time.
Darth Mauling. He's like a wannabe Sith.
Yes. Importantly though, Cog is at level 15. About to head up to level 16.
Oh,
We saw
yes.
how much damage he had earlier into the game. Has himself 2 items, heading up towards 3. It will be getting to a point where CJ really don't want this game to be about the Kayle. Want to be splitting the map, but Cog, of course, has the teleport now. I think he has to teleport in early if he does come into the fight in time. Gets his ult down to save one of the carries and isn't left alone against this arrayed phalanx of CGA. It will be a very fun fight for Rascal Jester, but they need to make sure that they aren't picked off beforehand.
Yeah, and the thing with Cog as well is if he teleports in an awkward flank, he just gets CC'd and dies. Kayle will never get tanky. Like, that's always
especially not against Kelly. And the big thing is, so now you have the Infinity Edge from Ashe. A couple of seconds left alone with Ashe. You do die as the Kayle as well, although you can turn around with an E auto reset. But then with the smoke screen available from Arya and the cleanse there too, you're not really going to be able to auto attack that freely against the Akali. So you will be able to weave in and out on that invisibility. So we'll have to be looking to see how Arya outplays that. Of course, if Cog is Arya's chosen target.
Okay, so
he's very close to level 16.
It's level 16. All hail Her Majesty, Queen of the Side Lane. Kayle, first of her name, has now hit level 16, and a Rage Blade also to
Cog
her
is
name.
ready to fight. The question is whether CJ can manage to engineer a fight where it's not
it's always doable.
this Kayle. It's always doable, particularly because of the level of some of the players in this region have, particularly in terms of their more measured play, have been left wanting at times. But particularly in regards to CJ, they will fight anywhere and at any time before you are ready. Now it's about Rascal Jester being able to roll the punches and come out to a win.
Pink now looking for something of a flank, but he'll find Nap flanking. It feels like I've seen that a lot around those few bushes in the red side jungle.
It's like deja vu. It's like deja vu.
It's like deja vu. Okay, we have seen the 64% win rate for CGA now. It's flipped back around the other side. Ocean Soul Point again is going to be up in 2 minutes. Remember that, guys. That would be a massive coup for CJ, considering the early dragon pressure that Jesters did have. But currently, their face checkers are a Nautilus, who's not awful, but is a support. If he doesn't get Aftershock, is very not tanky.
And the problem is, if you actually end up walking over Vision and CJ don't engage on you onto that ward and you walk past it, you still got the Bard ult, which can chase you back into that Vision. If you dive in with something like, like a Renekton going in with the Kayle ult, something like that, like kind of that nuke onto the backline, there's a lot of AP and it's level 60 now, it does a decent amount of damage. I don't think it's enough to save your backline. What I think a lot of this game will actually be on these Bard ults now. Bard ults, Ashe ults, as much as they are the prime initiating tools, and they can catch out this team. And if you lock up Cog and you wail on the rest of the team during the duration of the Bard ult, the game could just be over.
CGA have also been really frustrated with the fact they have no mid lane turrets outside of their base, and Rascal Jester still managed to keep their tier 1 up. That's been
the Power Caitlyn.
Massive deal, like the fact that they can just keep that sort of siege up there. It means that CJ don't have the same pressure to get into the jungles as they would like. Arya's actually rotated down to the bot lane, but that means that Jesters know they have a 4 versus 5. There's no teleport, remember, on Arya. He can't be here, but the Temper Fate is good, and Arya now going to try and roam back over to the mid lane, but that was a nice disengage from CGA in the 4v5.
It's ult for ult trade, but with 40 seconds on the Ocean Dragon, who's that favor more? The Bard ult's down, that's very important, and this means that Art has a lot less things to worry about. Same with Cog. Now we're going to have to see what the problem solving is. Pull the Forge Guard to start.
Out, but it's going to land onto no one. That is the Ashe arrow onto Kayle though, and here comes Arya trying to find something in the back. A massive knockup. There's a Divine Judgment. It buys time, but it's 1-for-1. Gango now trading back, trying to find something. It's a double. 1 for 3 or 1 for 2 right now, but now Art gets another in backline. It's 2 for 2. In comes Unica trying to flash forward. So is Gango, but the cocoon is huge, and the Ashe will fall. Now Art stepping forward, but he's been exhausted. The headshot still comes through, and now Nap trying to flee, trying to run away, but the spider is sinking her fangs in. The cocoon lands as well, and it will be a triple for the Caitlyn. Grendel is over by the Ocean Drake, and with 2 members alive and a jungler, Jesters will roam over and claim Ocean Soul Point for themselves.
Metcha saves the damn game. Gango flashing forward straight into CC, straight into death. If he'd been left alone there with his 3 items, would have cleaned up the game, and it will be Rascal Jesters extending it once again. Arya had a huge ultimate in there. The Temper Fate is available, but he doesn't have the vision, and of course Temper Fate doesn't do damage anyway. We've just been buying time.
Yeah, I wondered whether that might be an
option. No, I think Ragel's caught. He's looking.
He's looking.
Oh my god!
What is this? Alright, well, that feels like an ominous end to a TV show there.
Let's have a look at this replay. So
Man.
we see Art knowing that there's no Temper Fate available, knowing that the Call of the Forge God is. But as I said, no, this is in fact where they trade the ultimates. They see the spot. Aria's not there, doesn't have teleport as well. He works his way up to mid lane during the course of this play. But that's a good amount of pressure tools available, and now not available from CJ. What happens here now is that the front line gets a little bit separated from the back line. The hook misses. They know there's no re-engage. Hachimetra gets tagged by the E, and the Ashel also lands onto Kokog. Look at the amount of damage that immediately comes in. Triple knockup from Nap is huge, and the double stopwatch from Aria, it's not enough because Art manages to get the headshot, puts the trap down. That's always the problem with Zhonya's versus Caitlyn, and Aria goes down with a little bit of a whimper in this team fight, not able to carry on. Gango flashes forward, Cocoon lands, there's no one to tank that up, and it's a fight around Baron now.
It is a fight around Baron, and that's not a Warmogs on Ornn, though he does have triple Ocean Drakes. That might count enough. He's gone towards the stone plate, and it's helping out in the team fights, but thus far, it has been a remarkably even affair in said fights. And we are going to see setup around Baron. We're going to see this next Drake be huge as well if we get to that point. Hell, we are 35 minutes into this game, and Rascal Jester CGA never seems to bloody well disappoint.
No, it doesn't. And we do have these ADCs moving towards their final items. Art being slightly further along that line than Gango is right now, both heading towards the defensive item along the way. The Death Dance coming out of Gango very shortly, and the Mora Malmortia is already picked up for Art, going towards what looks like either a GA or a Bloodthirster on that last item slot.
Neither item, I would hugely disagree. I think the Moor makes a lot of sense when Arya is so damn fed and is really trying to execute you. You've got the range largely to stay safe from Ashe. Okay. But here is the Baron start again. The far side alteration once again spots out the back end of the Baron being started. Nagi stepping around the back. Cog here. Nap over the wall. Does not have flash, but could get Call of the Forge God round and about. The Baron will be pulled off. And here is the Forge God incoming. Nagi knocks up. Tempered Fate comes down. But the displacement still goes through that particular ability. Now Nagi with the stone plate trying to survive. Arya is dead. He went in, but Nap claims Nagi's life. But I will take a support for a mid laner any day of the week. Pink is a bit low, but CJ have to back away.
Oh,
you can't go in.
You can't go into 5 people. He went in alone. Unica is caught out by Art very quickly there, but it will not be enough damage to try to
Siege onto mid.
Siege onto mid. Where's their wave layer going to come from? They do have Cocoon still. They still have the Kale if they want to dive.
They could dive. That tower spends no time alive. Kale and Caitlyn demolish structures in a moment. They're going to think about sieging on. Arya is still dead for 20 seconds. And lands onto Art. But the Divine Judgment buys time. Pink very low in the backline. Hachimetra gets onto Grendel, but now he has to go up. He's going to have to come down at some point too. That's another amazing stun. And the traps are pretty damn good. Art trying to keep things up. That's a knock up. Hachimetra goes down. Art is still alive. Arya still dead. But Hachimetra, of course, is the jungler. That's huge. Art slowed down, but Grendel had to flash out.
Can they chase him still?
Gango thinking about it. He's got a lot of health. The Caitlyn trap forces a bit of a sidestep.
If they can delay them long enough here, they might be able to get a free reset towards Baron.
Unica is still dead, remember.
Unica is still dead, but Hachimetra is also still dead. It might just be a no smite start for it. Either way, it's actually going to be just priority traded and maybe just vision for CJ around the dragon instead.
But mid lane inhibitor turret was broken. It was a good defense from CGA to turn it around, but it was still bloody even. That gold graph is a helter-skelter, a fairground ride. Scream if you want to go fast.
Exactly. Arya now has the upgraded Zhonya's Hourglass into the Zhonya's Paradox, but you cannot be diving in alone as a Sakali into so many people. Even if you cleanse immediately Zhonya's, you probably die for not getting much. You need to split up the fight, but it is going to be Rascal Jester who are really holding their battle lines pretty strong. In that last fight, though, Art's traps ended up saving the game once again for them there. Gango couldn't walk around. He had to go around the base gates there. He couldn't even walk out of his own lane and couldn't follow up for any of the damage. He left his front line alone to try and finish off and lock the carries. And to their credit, they did a lot of work.
I need to know how these late game fights are going to go. It feels super even.
It's all execution.
But
all execution.
Perfect execution for Arya is going to be the real key of it because he's been going in a lot and getting stunned up before he can get into his invulnerabilities or invisibilities. And that ultimate's all very powerful.
Important thing here, Rascal Jester managed to get a lot of vision control over bot side jungle.
Yeah,
any CC can lead to a pick, and any pick can lead to that 5v4, in which we saw how bold CGA were with it late.
The Forge God looking to catch Jester's on the retreat. It gets onto Pink. The Ash Arrow now onto Nagi, who's a long, long way from safety.
Been locked up.
Art's been locked up. That's a lot of the consistent DPS down. Pink in the front line is in trouble. The Divine Judgment will be burned. It's now a 4 versus 5. The traps are big. Unica takes a massive headshot to the face. base. But remember, there's still three Ocean Drakes and Ocean Soul now alive. And with 4v5, Jesters may well have to just give this up.
Arya's now looking for a bit of a flank, got around to the backside. This might be a Baron for Dragon Trade, but if it's Ocean Soul, this is not worth it for the Jesters.
They have to give
It's
it
not even
up.
a trade, it goes down too quick. They might be able to stop him even on the Baron. Now they have to do this without the Nautilus for the counter engage, and their ultimates are going to come up in the next couple of seconds. You're gonna have to see if they're going to bush break.
There's a massive push. They are just dead. He's eviscerated. Who needs Ocean Soul when you just die straight away? Now Pink needs to back out. Arya into the backline, buying as much time as he can. Is so much trouble. Arya going forwards, gets the stopwatch, gets the healing. That's Arya flashing out now, but he's going down to the back end, and Cog and Art still stay alive, and it is a 2-for-2 at the end of the day.
2-for-2. Cog's ult is just about to come up as well. Next couple of seconds, he needs to be
now.
out!
There it is. There's the stopwatch. Art flashing in, buying time. Headshots galore. There is a divine judgment, but it's only buying some time. Gango. Oh my god. There's the stopwatch, but Art over the wall will find the pin. Oh my. Edge line. Still doesn't buy enough time. Art will find surely the attack, and he will finally shut down Gango. Call the Force Gold back up, and they're just up all the time. Knocked down. Art still alive, but now this Caitlyn is in a 2 versus 1, trying to heal up, and that is a lot of healing, and they can't out DPS the Caitlyn.
They can't. He actually attacks the Scuttle Crab knowing it has less resist than the Ornn, so the Bloodthirster can keep him healed up. The more pops, the healing benefit from that comes through, but now you have to deal with the Ocean Soul, and that's why it got so damn close. For once, Arya got onto the backline, ended up taking up a lot of time with Cog. Cog Zonya's in the middle of that fight to buy the last 2 seconds for his ultimate to come back up, which turned the fight once again, returned about half the HP bars damage onto Gango, which almost led to that team fight win for Rascal Jesters. Oh my god.
This is why I will never count in CGA. This is why I can never count out Rascal Jesters. These teams are magical and ridiculous in equal measure. Go over that fight and that amazing pick on a Unigate.
They don't really respect what could happen in the Baron Pit. Arya gets a lot of turnaround damage onto Art, but he has a lot of defensive stats now. The Ocean Soul is ticking, buys up a lot of time, buys up a number of hundreds of HP, and Gango manages to heal up a fair amount. Cog walks into Vision thinking that potentially CGA had backed off, but then of course, Nap lands that that knock up onto Cog. He Zonya's, like I said, to get the cooldown remaining on his ult, and turns around a lot of damage onto Gango. Gets his ranger's focus, but Gango, that was so close. The flash from Nagi coming in clutch as well.
It's just a mess, back and forth, AD carry v AD carry, Kale versus Akali as well. The Baron has been started again by CGA, and the action never stops. The Forge God comes down. It's a call to battle. Pink's knocked up in the front line. Art knocked up in the back. The Divine Judgment buys time. Art needs to stay alive. He heals up through that amount of safety. The exhaust comes down. Gango stays Nagi in the back line. Art now getting smashed on. Gango staying alive as much as he can. Nap is in the backside, but Art is down. So is Gango. Now the Kale needs to be the DPS. Arya is also here looking for more. Hachimecha taken low. The chilling smite slows down Cog. The shuriken flip, and Pink is going to go down to PA. It's Ocean Soul, and CGA finally kill the Caitlyn. It'll be Grendel with a double kill, the ace, and it is 5 for 1, and the healing means no peeling, and it will mean that CGA will start crushing through this base. They've got 30 seconds before this Caitlyn's back up, and they will try and end the game.
They will. It's always, if you have a deathless carry, their first death of the game can often turn the momentum of it. Art goes down for his first death. It was a valiant affair, but now they have to deal with this 4-man group pushing into the Nexus.
Nagi's going to try and buy time. He gets a hook, but it's onto Grendel. That's not anybody damage to towers. He needs to clear out the wave. He needs the Riptides, but the second tower now under siege. It's going to fall super shortly. That's the tempered fate to stop Art coming down and stopping it. The Nexus is going to fall. Surely, Art, you don't have enough DPS. You don't have enough time. And CGA, you were made to work for it, but you'll move to 9 and 2.
And Nap flashes the CLG icon, and I concur, Nap. I concur. Somehow, someway, CGA get themselves to a late game teamfight win, and they end the game off of it. It's a nail-biting affair, but many CGA games have ended up like it. Rascal Jesters, though, take a bow. What a game.
What a game. But we're going to take a brief break so we can collect our thoughts. I can catch my breath, and we'll break down that madness for you after we're done with it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the desk. Bring you coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split Week 6. We just witnessed Crest Gaming Act. Never count them out, because they'll always find a way. Face off against Rascal Jester and become victorious. Gentlemen, this was a game that was peculiar from the beginning in Champ Select. We continued to see it throughout the whole of this game as Rascal Jester had the lead. No, CGA have the lead. Wait, no, Rascal Jester... How do we even break this down, gentlemen, truly?
Never count CGA out. Never quite count them in either. Like, yeah. Jesters and CGA are inventive teams. They like to find their inventive flanks, inventive fights, but that's just it. They will always go for the fights, and that one was a bot lane fiesta into a whole game fiesta.
I think it also exacerbates the issue of something which we've been tracking for a little while now. Watch what you first time though. That's the power switch. You don't want to turn the PC off.
That would be awful.
But Arya, if he's in a draft where he can't dive into a team, can really struggle because he is often the guy dealing the lion's share of the damage. I got very close this game.
Yeah, Arya found himself caught out in a few spots and was definitely giving Rascal Jester some breathing room, especially, let's highlight first on this Caitlyn pick. Burst picked Caitlyn in the region, and okay, while it did lose, it did make Caitlyn look pretty good.
He only died once that game.
Yeah.
He was set up to succeed with early pressure support. Level 1 of the Nautilus ended up securing... So you could see that CJ were trying to go for this vertical jungling invade into the blue buff. It didn't work out, largely because there is this Nautilus just threatening at level 1, and then also an early game jungler in the Elise. These two focusing on bot lane, we saw the jungle presence in bot lane, meant that this Caitlyn was set up to succeed and have tied it over into these multi-item spikes where you can team fight more effectively.
And it's also an element of that Caitlyn also became a real thorn in CGA's side later. Managed to itemize super defensively, meant Arya was struggling to get the kill by himself onto the Caitlyn, who was just healing up for massive amounts through Divine Judgments and the rest of it. And also, flankly, being able to siege with the KO as well was pretty good along with those mid lane pushes, and defend the mid lane tier 1, which was just up for years and years, it felt like, in the mid lane for the Jesters.
I mean, the first big team fight where we saw it swing more in Rascal Jester's favour is that second Ocean Drake for CGA. Had you mentioned went in for the steal, was unsuccessful. However, the engage from CGA ended up being turned around through an unexpected dive from Unica, which went wrong.
The volley ult didn't land on the turret, and Cog did an auto-attack reset with his stacks already running from the KO, ended up into a load of damage. Luckily, Arya managed to make it out of that play. A good exhaust from Grendel stopped it from being the flash forward, Cog claiming more kills. However, there were like 3 flashes away from him. Cog has consistently shown his KO is very scary coming into the team fights. Very nearly cleaned up that team fight too.
Well, and due to all of that, they were able to secure that next turret, which really opened up a long mid lane. However, the second time they decided to fight around this dragon, it was the complete opposite way, wasn't it, Initialize? There was a dragon into a giant purple worm.
Nap, late game team fights on Ornn are absolutely unacceptably good. Like, it's unfair. He did it versus Sengoku Gaming. He did it here where he manages to get a double knock-up. Grendel teams up super well on the Bard as well, who also had a pretty damn good game on that support champion as well, who magical journeys down the sort of mid lane wall to get into a perfect position for the double cosmic binding onto the Kayle, and would it have been the Caitlyn? I forget who else the other person. Kayle Renekton. That makes a lot more sense. I'm thinking, I don't remember the Caitlyn dying there, so that feels like a mistake.
Caitlyn only died once that game.
Yeah,
very end of the game.
Exactly that, and that kind of synergy getting onto people in the backline was really good news from CGA. They couldn't pull it off every time, but when it worked, my day, those Call of the Forge gods were pretty clean to watch.
And eventually it did mean that Ocean Soul Point was up for both teams, moving a little bit further on. However, Rascal Jester, due to an accident that happened, they ended up having to give that dragon over, right, Nymera? And from there, it just went worse and worse. And, well, they were able to get caught out, but it's a weird one. Go, if you could recap that for us.
Well, we did see the Ocean Dragon going over, and then immediately CJ running towards topside to try and stop the Baron, which was the bush bait, which immediately took down Unica, and that fight went absolutely haywire. This is the one where we saw Gango trying to free fire, while Art was trapped up by the Bard ult, which was trying to save save Gango from the very last auto coming out. Cog Zonya's to get the last 2 seconds back on his ultimate and traded back most of Gango's health bar. And it ended up being this huge, like, 3 for 3? I can't even remember. It was that crazy. And ended up kind of everyone just backing off after it because there were just not enough people left to take Baron. Everyone was dead.
DPS had all died pretty much. It was Nap and Grendel trying to take down Art, and they just decided, nope, don't want this, and they just walked away from the Caitlyn. It was a bit insane to watch in that fight.
Huge flash hook.
The Ocean Drake also coming in very important, keeping Gango alive.
Well, they had 4 Ocean Dragons and the Soul.
Exactly, right? The regen is huge, and it's one of the highest win rates in solo queue, if you just have
it's
it.
The highest, it's the highest win rate Soul in solo queue. It's very, very strong.
Which, personally, I'm not surprised about, because it does feel like I always win games when I do get that, when I do get that Soul.
Yeah.
I almost tell my team not to worry about it unless it's Ocean Soul now, because I'm like, it's fine, it's fine. It's like, and most of them have like 55, 60% win rate. Screw it. Ocean Soul, I'm like, no, we have to get this one, mate, because I suddenly get a good positive win rate now. Moving on through it, CGA and Rascal Jester actually had a pretty disappointing end fight, wasn't it, Initialize? And it was just CGA kind of lining up lots of different CC, and Rascal Jester were a bit displaced and caught out.
Yeah, Art finally didn't have summoners, couldn't sort of get enough healing out.
Arya finally lived.
Arya finally lived. And again, Arya ended 10-5-5, but remember at one point he was 8-2, and that says a lot about actually how those late game fights became trickier for the Akali to navigate. But there was just this issue, right, where the thing that tilted what was exceptionally close fights between some exceptionally fed carries was the Ocean Soul healing just giving the edge over that certain people weren't dying to Caitlyn quite in time.
Yeah, they weren't.
And it worked out.
It really did. The DPS from Caitlyn wasn't quite enough when when the Akali can just one-shot the Caitlyn. Jesus, so many K's and C's, and my brain's just like, no thank you anymore. With that...
Karthus.
Well, Karthus could definitely be played more. If anything, I would have liked it in some of these spots. Interesting regardless. Nonetheless, we'll talk about that during our own personal break. However, during the break, we're going to be getting ready to see Axis face off against Detonation Focus Me. And there's far more around this game that you all don't expect there to be. Axis win this? There's a playoff potential still on in the cards for them. But first things first, we're going to have a quick break. Get ready for that, and we'll be back momentarily.